So think about the laptop you're using right now. You bought it, it sits on your desk, it's absolutely yours, right? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're breaking down some pretty explosive claims and forensic findings from the Tech Autopsy audit of Windows 11. We are going to deconstruct a massive shift in personal computing, looking at exactly how the world's flagship operating system is fundamentally changing its relationship with the people who actually use it.
It's a heavy question, isn't it? I mean, imagine buying a brand new, powerful computer with your own hard-earned cash. You set it up, assuming it's a totally private tool for your work and your life, but do you still truly own it? We're going to investigate this by unpacking the source's findings on Microsoft's controversial hardware requirements and some major privacy shifts happening literally right under our keyboards.
Let's start with Part 1, the Windows 11 hardware wall. According to the audit, Microsoft issued what they call a brutal ultimatum to its user base by officially ending support for Windows 10 in October of 2025. And here's the kicker. When this mandate was taking shape, roughly 40% of Windows users were still perfectly happy running that older system.
To put that into perspective, that 40% translates to an estimated 400 million people. The audit points out that this cutoff forced hundreds of millions of users toward the e-waste bin. And honestly, the crazy part is that millions of these users had perfectly fine, extremely powerful machines. Just imagine the frustration of having to ditch a perfectly good computer simply because its motherboard lacked one very specific component.
That missing component? It's the TPM 2.0 chip, or Trusted Platform Module. Microsoft installed this as a strict hardware wall, meaning if you didn't have it, there was absolutely no way you were upgrading to Windows 11. Now, Microsoft framed this strictly as a necessary data security upgrade to protect users. But for those facing the e-waste bin, the audit notes it felt a lot more like a lock added to their own front door without their consent, which kind of forces us to ask, what exactly is hiding inside that chip? That brings us to Section 2, inside the endorsement key.
The source highlights a really jarring disconnect here. While Microsoft's narrative focuses entirely on essential data security, the forensic findings suggest this hardware wall actually establishes a global surveillance layer. So it's no longer just about keeping hackers out. According to the audit, it's about establishing a permanent, unbreakable link between your physical computer and your digital identity.
And that permanent link is forged by something called the endorsement key. Deep inside that required TPM chip is this key, which the source describes as a permanent, unchangeable, and undeletable digital fingerprint for your specific physical machine. And the truly wild part? It's hard-coded into the hardware itself. You can't change it, and there is no way to delete it.
Let's deconstruct how this builds into what the source flat-out calls a hardware doxing exploit. So step 1, you have that unchangeable ID on the chip. Step 2, in the Windows 11 era, Microsoft quietly ties that physical fingerprint directly to your personal Microsoft account. And then step 3 is where it gets really devious. The audit found that Microsoft opened a door via an unrestricted API. Basically, this allows third parties, whether that's a random stranger on the internet or an advertising network in another country, to track exactly which physical device you are using every single time you log in.
Because of this, the audit argues that we are witnessing the end of the local computer. You know, remember when your files only existed on the hard drive sitting right in front of you? Well, the audit argues those days are totally gone. By forcing an internet connection and a Microsoft account just to reach your own desktop, the concept of a private, isolated workstation has been permanently stripped away. You're now using a tracked asset that's constantly being nudged and monitored by the operating system.
Which naturally leads us to Part 3, the AI agentic agenda. We really have to ask in this explainer, why is this tracking happening right now? Well, the source explains that Microsoft is fundamentally rebranding Windows as an agentic operating system. In this new model, built-in AI agents monitor your activity to make decisions on your behalf, like automatically sorting your files or reading your emails to draft replies. But to do that effectively, it needs context. It basically requires knowing virtually everything about you and exactly what you do on that machine.
And to feed these data-hungry AI agents, Microsoft introduced features like Windows Recall. This feature relentlessly captures snapshots of your screen every few seconds. It records everything you do. We're talking sensitive banking details, archived private messages, the whole shebang, just to feed local and cloud AI databases. And because of that endorsement key we just talked about, even if you try to stay anonymous, your doxed hardware is continuously synced right back to their servers.
Obviously, this creates a massive risk.
Despite Microsoft's claims of local processing, security researchers cited in the audit warn that these constant snapshots create a huge centralized vulnerability. They literally call it a treasure trove for malware. Think about it. If a hacker breaches your system now, they don't just get your current password, they get a back catalog of every single screenshot your computer has ever taken.
So let's look at part 4, the pushback and fallout. As you might expect, this combination of hardware doxing and constant surveillance has not gone unnoticed. The audit uses some incredibly strong language here, describing the modern Windows experience as a money-extracting husk. The source argues that as Microsoft's valuation nears $4 trillion, the actual user experience is just tanking. The operating system, they claim, has shifted from being a useful tool for you, the user, to a system prioritizing a massive corporation's shareholder value through relentless data collection and UI advertisements.
People are feeling alienated by all this tracking and the ads littered throughout their interfaces, and honestly, they're voting with their feet. The audit points out a massive, growing trend of users migrating away to alternatives. They're moving to Linux, which is viewed as a much more private alternative, and to Mac OS, quite simply to escape the feeling of being spied on and to take back control of their own personal computing environment.
The source concludes their analysis with a pretty practical recommendation. To avoid being bamboozled by all this corporate hype and what they call AI slop, the audit recommends Brilliant as a tool to help users understand the underlying mathematics and data science driving these tech shifts. It's just a solid way to sharpen your reasoning so you can truly understand the technology that's operating right inside your own home.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer. We want to leave you with this provocative thought straight from the audit. As we sprint towards an AI-driven future full of agentic operating systems, must we inevitably surrender our hardware privacy? Has Microsoft pushed this TPM requirement too far? Or is a surveilled, tracked machine simply the new cost of entry for modern computing? It's a huge question, and one we all need to answer the next time we log in. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep asking the big questions.